All right, buckle in because this video is going to be going over everything that you need to know if you've already started your fitness journey, if you're new to fitness as a whole and you're just getting started, or if you're someone that wants to have a crazy transformation within the next year. Here's what you need to start doing today in order to make that a reality. All right, starting us off, we have to understand what our goal is. Our goal is the single most important thing when it comes to setting our course, because if you don't have a goal in mind, there's nowhere for you to end up. You're kind of just sailing endlessly and not really getting to any destination. So you need to pick a goal. You can either A, lose weight and build muscle. You can B, build muscle and continue to gain weight, or C, you can maintain your current body weight while losing fat and building muscle at the same time. This is called main gaining. 85% of people still think that building muscle is just breaking down the muscle fiber and building it back up stronger. And yes, muscle damage is a byproduct of resistance training. However, the real magic happens when you hit the involuntary slowing of the contractile phase. This happens because you're getting more fibers recruited in contracting against mechanical tension, which is the primary driver of myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is just building new muscle tissue. Now, with all that out of the way, we need to understand that there are two ways of effective training, and based off of where you start out determines what you should do for the best results. Now, if you're a beginner and you've only been lifting for a week or two, you need to do high rep training. This is not because higher rep ranges build more muscle. This is because we want to have the best technique before we start to increase our intensity with our lifts. And since you're a new lifter, your body is going to be hyper receptive to new muscular adaptation in the form of building more muscle mass because you have a new stimulus for growth. Now, if you're someone that's already an intermediate to advanced lifter, you're going to want to do low volume, high intensity. This is crucial again because having higher intensity puts you closer to higher thresholds of motor unit recruitment, allowing you to have the most amount of mechanical tension as you contract the muscle and stimulate myofibrillar hypertrophy. Now, the reason why we're doing low volume with high intensity and not high volume, high intensity is because recovery is crucial at this stage. If you're someone that, again, is training absolutely to the max with high intensity, you're not going to be able to have that level of intensity for 3, 4, 5 sets. You're only going to be able to have 2 to 3 hard sets per exercise, and then you're going to be gassed with no energy left in the tank to keep pushing that hard. Now, the reason why is because it takes a lot of energy to actually push to failure, and if you don't rest and recover and give yourself optimal rest times, you're not going to be able to continue to see progress. You're going to plateau, and you could even potentially get weaker because your body has never recovered before the next session. Once you started lifting and you're continuing to lift for over 6 months, your main focus again should be focusing more on stability. When you're more stable, your body has more capacity to generate more force through the intended muscle group. What do I mean by this? For example, if you were to try to jump on ice, you're not going to be able to jump really high, not because your legs aren't strong enough, but because your brain is signaling to your legs not to generate max amounts of force, because subconsciously your body knows that you're going to injure yourself if you jump with full force. Now, obviously there are ways to overcome this by getting more stable on the ice, or maybe if you've practiced jumping in unstable environments, your brain will allow you to recruit more motor units. However, for beginner lifters, intermediates, and even advanced lifters, your primary focus should not be to stabilize your body, but it should be to get as stable as possible in whatever movement you're trying to do, so you can then generate as much force through the intended muscle. Now, again, like I mentioned, this is because the more stable you are, the more motor unit recruitment you can get through the intended muscle, which in turn helps get more muscle a lot quicker, because if there's more motor units being exposed to mechanical tension, then you have more stimulus for growth, which is what we want. Where this becomes an issue is that people that isolate their muscles too much will often neglect their stabilizer muscles. People that have really big legs that only got big legs from training with leg press or hack squats may not train their lower back to do ranges of motion that are included in something like picking up a heavy couch, which is where they can lead to injury. Because if you have really massive legs but a really weak back, your body is going to generate a lot of force, but your limiting factor isn't going to be your legs, it's going to be your lower back. Moving on to nutrition. Nutrition takes up 75% of your body transformation, and it's the most crucial part when it comes to actually seeing results inside and outside of the gym. So you need to make sure you're taking nutrition seriously. Now, the simplest way to attack nutrition is going to be understanding your maintenance calories and then understanding your macronutrients. Now, what are macronutrients? Macronutrients are simply just proteins, carbs, and fats. That's literally all they are. Proteins are going to help you build more muscle mass, carbs are going to be your main energy source, and fats are going to be a secondary energy source, but also stored energy as well. So when we're taking in proteins, carbs, and fats, we need to understand that we have a certain moderation. Now, I always like to use the 40-30-30 rule. So we have 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fats. This is going to help balance our energy sources, our building blocks for building muscle, and our healthy fats so we can have better hormonal health, and also helps with recovery and sleep. So once we have our proportions for our macros, we can then add those up and fit those into our total calories. This is going to be the number that we cannot go over for our goals. Now, if we're trying to build more muscle and we don't care about putting on too much fat, it's okay to eat a little over this number, especially if our maintenance calories is already very low. We want to be in a calorie surplus in order to build more muscle, but we're also going to put on more fat as well as we get higher and higher into that calorie surplus. And on the opposite end of that, if we want to lose fat or if we want to build muscle while losing fat, we need to make sure that we're having a high amount of protein while being in a calorie deficit. Now, the easiest way to calculate your calorie deficit is simply by going to the macro calculator that we have on sweatspherefitness.com. Free calculator for you guys to use that you can just type in your height, age, weight, activity level for your specific goal, and broken down into proteins, carbs, and fats already done for you. So that way, when you load up MyFitnessPal, you can just take those accurate numbers, throw those into your phone, and start tracking today. The simplest way to do this, again, is by tracking your food consistently. And if you don't know how to track your food using the free version of MyFitnessPal, you can watch this video next, where I go into more detail on how to accurately track your food. All right, moving on. Next is sleep and recovery. Now, for sleep and recovery, you're going to do this very, very simply. You're going to get a minimum of 8 hours of sleep every single night. Now, I know this is a lot to ask for a lot of people. However, there's other things that we do throughout the day that are getting in the way of our sleep. Things like being on our phone too late, things like playing too much video games, stuff that is not necessary for our day-to-day routines that we can start to cut out in order to make more time for sleep. Now, that method that I just said about getting your mind ready for sleep is kind of important, but it's not as important as this next one, which is simply do things throughout the day that make you tired. If you do your cardio, if you hit your step count, if you're in a calorie deficit and you still have to wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning, you're going to be exhausted when you get home and you're going to be tired. So when your head hits the pillow, you're going to go right to sleep. So you need to make sure that you're actually giving yourself a reason to be tired at the end of the day, because so many people get off work and then they go and they relax, they watch TV, they unwind, but unwinding doesn't get them ready for bed. So make sure that you don't go and rest until everything is taken care of, you've eaten your meals, you've got all your work done, and now you can rest easy. That is the biggest tip that I personally started using, because I would take forever unwinding after I got off work and I wouldn't get anything done. But then when I'd go to sleep and lay down, I would still be wide awake and my mind would be awake, and that's terrible for sleep. If you also struggle to sleep, it's really important to have magnesium supplements, and also make sure that you're either taking melatonin or, just like I said, having a reason to be tired. The best thing when it comes to solidifying all the three things that we just said is by having a structured plan. If there's no structure to what you're doing, you're not going to stick to it. And moving forward from that, if you don't have a dedicated reason, or if you don't have the drive or the passion for what it is that you're doing, it is more likely than not that you're not going to be successful. So you need to enjoy what you do, which is why being the most optimal or being the most scientific about your lifts is not always the right way to go. If you enjoy going into the gym and you enjoy lifting heavy weights and you do it safely and you can recover from it, then absolutely go and do that. If you enjoy doing lighter weight in higher rep ranges when you're still starting out, that's perfectly fine, because you're building the technique and you're getting stronger at the same time. So by all means do that. Don't let these kids on the internet that are probably my age saying things like, you only need to do 2 sets of 6 reps to build muscle efficiently, because the majority of people starting out have terrible technique and that's not going to work for them. So you need to have the ability to stabilize your body and to generate the most amount of force production through the intended muscle group, yada, yada, yada. Science-based, shut up. Anyway, so I forgot where I was on my rants, but that's gonna be what it takes in order to optimize your nutrition, your training, and your recovery. So make sure that you're hitting all 3 of those things on the head and you'll be good as new. If you don't know me, my name is Josh. I'm a certified personal trainer. I've been training for almost 3 years now, and I've helped over 100 people go from being overweight to having healthy bodies. And I've also helped people go from underweight, just like myself, to building a strong muscular physique that they can be proud of. I also recently helped my own dad go from 235 pounds 18 weeks ago down to 200 pounds, which is down 35 pounds in only 18 to 20 weeks. If you guys want more free resources, click the link to our Sweatsphere Fitness website down below, and I'll see you guys inside the Sweatsphere.